John.
Hey, how you doing, Ron?
I'm good.
A lot of chatter we're going on back
I
there.
know you're in a place where it seems to be a lot of chatter. And
Booga, booga,
well,
cheep, cheep.
welcome everybody. This is the Bingham Boys. I'm Ron Yengich, and fellow Bingham boy John Saltas is with us. But John, you are at a place where there seems to be a lot of noise, and in fact, some of it's pretty familiar from my youth.
Yeah.
And where are you?
I'm in Chicago. I'm Lower Michigan Drive. One of my favorite places to be in Chicago is the old Billy Goat Tavern.
Yeah.
And when I lived there in 1981, that's when I visited for the first time, but I'd heard about it, of course, from Saturday Night Live with Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and the whole crew just ripping it up on the Greek culture there. It's so damn funny. Burger, cheap. Pepsi, we don't have Pepsi.
No Pepsi.
Whatever, each way it goes.
But, having been there many times myself,
yeah.
I mean, they captured it. They amplified the ambiance of it. Mike Royko wrote about it a lot.
Royko wrote about it a lot, and that's what drew me there, because it was the Sun-Times where he wrote first when I lived in. He switched. He went from the Sun-Times to the Tribune.
Yeah.
Because there was a newspaper sale, and the office was like 10 feet. I mean, it was on Upper Michigan Avenue. This is lower.
Across the street?
Yeah, it was right there in the building. And I think the Sun-Times building might no longer be there. The Tribune building is. But anyway, so those guys would hang out in there. And Mike Royko created a lot of notoriety about Sam Sianis, the owner, and, what went on in there and the characters that went in and all the kind of stuff. And it was just very much alive in his writings when he was writing about the Billy Goat.
He really did capture a group of people that became iconic in a way when you read his columns or I went back and read the books that were compendiums of them. And to me, it reminds me a lot of Damon Runyon. Damon Runyon focusing on the D's and Do's guys in New York when he was writing, and him making them larger than life, and also basing them on true characters. I mean, there are people that would read Runyon. I'm sure people that
I tried that a couple times, that style. I mean, but they're too bad. But we lack in great characters these days, and even more so now. But in our generation, we had characters. Yeah. But in Royko era, there just seemed to be a lot. And there's a couple remaining. But
Jimmy Breslin did the same thing.
Breslin did really well. But Royko enlivened Chicago very much. He was Chicago. I think today he'd probably be kind of seen as an arch conservative or something politically, but maybe not. But he was so good. I mean, he wrote about something I saw only once in my life, and he was adamant about it being the best form of ball. It's a form of softball, but with a bigger softball.
The big softball, yeah. He loved to play that. He played it.
Yeah, and I saw it. I can't remember, maybe in Lincoln Park or somewhere, and I go, I'll be damned. You can't only hit this thing about 40 feet.
Yeah.
And the guys are running all over for it.
It was a big game. In fact, there was a great basketball player. He was from Chicago. His name was Sweetwater Clifton, Nat Sweetwater Clifton. And Clifton actually was known originally as a great softball player. It was a big deal there. Money was bet on it. And there were black leagues and Polish leagues and Croat leagues and all the Italian, but they also always played in tournaments against one another. And Nat Sweetwater Clifton ended up playing with the Detroit Pistons, first the Fort Wayne Pistons, and then the Detroit Pistons in the NBA. But he was also a Harlem Globetrotter. Uh-huh. And his story is fascinating because he was a fantastic athlete, but when he came up, he couldn't play Major League Baseball because it was before the breaking of the color barrier by Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey, and it was fascinating reading his story. I loved him. I've got his basketball card still from 1958. I just loved the name Sweetwater.
Well,
it was just one of those.
Which reminds me, when you went into Billy Goat, were they doing the shtick like, what do you want? Look at, going through the routine like.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was like we don't know you, so we're going to give you a hard time kind of deal.
Give me a cheeseburger. We don't have cheeseburger. Whatever. All the way through it. Look at the menu. What do you want? Yeah. And when you said Sweetwater, I knew the Coke Pepsi thing, so I'm not going to even ask for that.
Yeah.
So I asked for my first time. I said, just give me a water. You want water? Go outside and drink out of the river. You want some water? Get the hell out of here. And I'm going, I just want a glass of water, you know. Yeah, and the whole thing was people just laughing at all this kind of stuff, behavior behind the counter. And they did capture it on Saturday night. It was Sianis's uncle, you know this. His name was Bill. Billy Goat. He had a goat in 1945 or so.
45.
Went to a Cub game, and the goat pissed off a couple of the fans, so they kicked him and the goat out of the game. And he then said, you know, you're never going to win another pennant or game or whatever. He cursed the Cubs on that day.
Right.
And sure enough, you know, for the next 40-something years or 50, 60 years, Cubs did nothing.
Until they won the World Series in 2016.
Well, they tried to break the curse over and over. I mean, they were Harry Carey's bar. They had a goat hanging. I mean,
right.
You know, and then they took the Bartman baseball. Bartman was the kid that disrupted the game and cost the Cubs a valuable game in the playoffs or something, and took that baseball. They put power cords on it and electrocuted it. So to break the curse, nothing breaks the curse. The Sianis family even tried to break the curse. Greek Orthodox priests were praying to break the curse. And then finally, you know, they won that 2016.
2016, they won the World Series.
But before they did, they won a playoff game. To qualify for the World Series, they won the National League pennant. And they did that on the anniversary of Bill Sianis's death, 45 years prior. So that was kind of like, brought the symmetry to it. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, they won the pennant on November 2nd, 2016. That's when they won the pennant.
Yeah.
So
when I was in high school, although as a Dodger fan, I fell in love with the Mets because they were, and basically because of Jimmy Preslin's book. Nobody here can play that. Can anybody here play that game? And
was that Casey Stengel said that?
He is talking about his own team. But in '69, the Mets and the Cubs were in a pennant race, and the Cubs had a big lead, and they're playing the Mets, and a black cat walks across Ron Santo in the on-deck circle, on the on-deck circle, and the Cubs were rallying at the time, and they were having Mets, and immediately everybody in Chicago go, "Oh my God, it's a black cat!" You know, Sianis is sending somebody, a black cat, to show us that we're not going to win. So it was a real thing in Chicago for all those years.
It was when the curse of the Billy Goat was well known, and it was just fun. It was a fun, you know, and the food there's not bad. It's real simple.
No,
burger
I thought
and fries.
It was good. Yeah,
and it's a classic old. If you've ever been to a city like that, we had very few places like this in Salt Lake. At first, it's downstairs, so there's no windows and that kind of stuff. And, you know, sports memorabilia and articles on the wall that really didn't seem to make a lot of sense until you went through and read them all, you know.
Yeah, they were they yellowed and all that stuff. We did have one place, and you'll remember the name of it. It was up by Social Hall Avenue, and they served hamburgers, simple hamburgers. You talking
about the guy that had Spam?
Yes, and he had Spam. You could get Spam for breakfast. You get
His
a Spam
name was Duras.
Yeah.
Duras.
He ended up after they bought that from
Larry
him.
Miller liked the Spam burger, so he put him out
Put it
south.
out south for a little while. Yeah,
it didn't last out there.
But I can't remember what the name of it.
Snappy Service or something.
Snappy Service, yeah. But it was good. They had a good hamburger, simple hamburger. You could get breakfast almost all around. You sat at a counter, and I miss those places. I miss places like that.
Yeah. Well, it was good fun. I liked it. When we go to Chicago, we take the kids and say, hey, let's go down to Billy Goat. But the last time I went in there, I mean, originally it was like there's still like guys who were maybe off the boat or something working, remnant Greeks. And last time I went there, you know, there was a couple of Hispanic guys doing the burgers and stuff, not in common, but they didn't get the Greek shtick down as well.
Right.
So, you know, it was kind of, I just looked at the guy, he goes, are you sure you want to pull this off? And, yeah, I got to do it. And some of them were, and some of them not. It was just there for the ambience at some point. But you could really go in there and get the treatment.
Oh, no, they love to see a tourist come in.
And just torture them.
And torture them. But great place, Chicago.
I know what you're going to say next. I got a feeling you want to be in Chicago for a reason.
I just want to be in Chicago because my Brewers just swept the Cubs. The Cubs, who were up 5.5 games on the Brewers earlier in the month.
Well, thank you for spotting us.
Well, no, they were playing great baseball. They won 10 in a row and then won 9 in a row after they lost the game. Came into Milwaukee and just got the snot beat out of them. And not only that, their center fielder, the great young center fielder, Pete Crow Armstrong, right before that series started, had a kerfuffle with a woman fan.
Well, he was getting frustrated anyway because he's been kind of erratic.
He's been struggling.
He's got a lot of talent, but it's not too often a player approaches a fan. And of course, there's like, shut up and I should be quiet. But he kind of took it to the next level. I don't think it bears repeating here.
No.
At least,
and the interesting.
Let's just say he dropped the F word, the B word. How many words did he let this live?
Well, I mean, we won't even go. But it was the context
B
of
word, B
all
word,
of the
F
words that
all in a very short burst.
Sentence. What's interesting about him, his apology was, I have. My mother and my sisters and the women in my life would be angry at what I said, and they're right to be angry, and I really do apologize. She was on all over me during this game, and what happened is he tried to make a fantastic catch. He's a great defensive center fielder, and he's been struggling in the field a little bit.
It's his arm that saves him.
He's got a great arm, but he's faster than lightning. And he didn't make the play, but if he had made the play, it would have been just a fantastic catch. And this woman gets on him. He's run into the wall, and he turns on her. But here's an interesting thing, and you probably know this. His mother is an actress.
I don't know that.
All right, and his mother's name, and I want to get this right, and I've seen the one movie that she was in. I want to get her name right. Ashley Crow.
Yeah, I've never heard of her.
Ashley Crow was in a lot of TV things and did a lot of movies. But
I don't know her by name.
But the one movie that kind of everybody knows, and certainly baseball people know, is she was in a movie called Little Big League. And this is where her father is the owner of the Minnesota Twins, and he's dying. And he decides he's going to make his grandson the manager of the Twins, and this little boy becomes the manager of the Twins. It's a feel-good movie. It's a pretty good movie, actually. She is that little boy's mother, and so immediately when this happened, everybody brought back this idea of his mother being involved with this somewhat iconic baseball movie, and Pete going off this way, and so. It's just kind of an interesting thing, but
What's a neat story, Ron? But no, I never saw the movie, never heard of her.
Well, that's because it is a movie that people like I would watch, which is something that's going to make me laugh and not something that's going to make me want to go slip my wrist in the kitchen at the end of it. Okay,
then you haven't seen Bugonia.
No, I probably don't want to. But
has anybody out there, if you've seen Bugonia, explain it to me. Anybody can send an email. I don't get it. And I love the director. He's a Greek guy. He did my favorite movie, actually, The Lobster. And people condemn me for liking The Lobster, but I like it. But anyway, I don't get Bugonia. I don't get it.
Well, you would get Little Big
League or Little Big...
No, Little Big League, yeah. And the reason is because there's a happy end in all ways around.
Well, speak of happy ending, just if you're going to rip on the Cubs, how about that doofus Abner, your guy, Uribe?
Oh, Abner.
There's a happy ending. He got his ass chewed. He's a nice guy.
Abner Uribe is a great young pitcher, but he has trouble controlling, his emotions, his movements, and his attitude toward the other team. And so I was watching the game. Was it last night? I guess it was. Last night when he strikes out a hitter to end the inning.
A Cardinal.
Left-handed hitter from the Cardinals. And then the Brewers end up winning that game. They beat the Cardinals again, but they're playing right now, as a matter of fact, the third game of that series. But he goes into a full-on wrestling move, going down to his...
Yeah, it looked like...
his crotch, and yelling at the team in the other dugout. But the beauty of it was Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, immediately after the game, he came in from the dugout, and he and Murphy stepped back into the back for a minute, and then Murphy just unloaded on him and told everybody, that's not how we play, that's not who we are. To Murphy's credit, the thing with Pete Crow Armstrong was brought up when they were playing in that, and he said, look, this kid's a great player, meaning Crow Armstrong, and he's struggling now. And when you're struggling and you're that great of a player and you're trying to make a great play and a fan gets on you, it's inevitable when you're young you're going to respond. It's something he's got to learn, and so we've got to give him a break. On the other hand, his own player, he did not give a break. And he said at the end of that conversation about that last night, I'll tell you what, we're not done with this, with Abner. We got to talk about it. I love the kid. He's great. He's either got to learn that we don't do that here, or we're going to have to find another place for him to learn it. So,
yeah, and I think the visuals of it are pretty well described. If you've been to any kind of pro wrestling match, you've seen the guy do the taunt and do the tomahawk crop to his crotch and just thrust outward, bringing his hands down and just being as descriptive as I can without going overboard, as if I've ever seen it. This is how it was described to me.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he did it not once, but like several times.
Yeah.
Right? He kind of went for the.
Now I've got to confess something here. I can't overly criticize either of these guys. Since I got thrown out of a game in college at Indiana Central University, which is in Indianapolis. It's now called Indianapolis State, I think. Small college, really nice college, because I was having a bad game at the plate, and I mean, I couldn't have hit this guy with a rowing paddle. I mean, he struck me out 3 times, and when he struck me out the last time on a pitch right down the middle that I couldn't do anything with, the students at that school got all over me. I mean, they were right behind me. And as I left, I gave them a high 1, and the umpire threw me out. So I get how you can become frustrated, but it's wrong to do that stuff. You got to be better.
Well, the thing is the ruling, I guess. Hey, they bought their ticket; they can say whatever they want. That's kind of been the NBA and stuff too. And you've heard it, out of hand. The N-word dropped during the middle of a game.
Yeah, there are some things that are off.
They lose their seats forever, but yeah. I kind of understand. I don't condone it for 2 seconds.
Oh, I don't either.
Crow,
I don't condone
Crow
what
more
I
than
did.
the other guy. Crow was like, Crow was reacting because he missed it. He played the shits, bad call, had a bad game, and said something he shouldn't have said. And the woman, I've seen the video, she was taunting him pretty good.
Oh, she was on him, yeah.
But there were other people taunting him. It's not just that. But the other guy, Uribe, was celebrating.
I know.
That was different. That was like...
his managers, that's what he said. I mean, Pat Murphy made the distinction between the two. It's hard. I've never agreed with fans being able to say anything they want. Them getting on me for striking out 3 times, I'm cool with that because they had a right to get on me. But on the other hand, some of the things you said crossed the line. And I have a little bit different take on it in this respect. I believe it's the fans sitting around somebody that does that stuff are the ones that have to jump on it and go, you know what, don't do that.
But that doesn't happen. Look, both those situations are... Well, that's particular. I mean, we have come so far around from decency that, we celebrate bad behavior, don't we? So...
But
politically and business-wise, it doesn't matter anymore. The better, and to raise it to the higher part of the pedestal.
One of the things I like about sports, I really do, is we celebrate some of that stuff in sports still, but there are still lines that in virtually every sport you can't cross, and it will be brought home by the people who are protecting the integrity of that particular game. And we still see that a lot, and I love to see that, and it's one of the reasons I am and always will be a sportophile, because I think that can happen.
But the weekend was the weekend. Monday, Memorial Day, did you go out?
I went out on Saturday. I try not to go out on Monday because I have 8 or 9 cemeteries, depending on how I'm feeling, to go to. My sisters are unable to go, and so I do it for our family. And they do go to my mom and dad's grave, and my little sister goes to, my older sister goes to her husband's grave, and my little sister goes to the baby that they lost grave. But I do it because I promised my mom, but I would do it anyway. But I went to 8, but I got them all in on Saturday, which is unusual over the last several years. Generally, it takes me 2 days. But I went everywhere from the city cemetery and Mount Calvary downtown to Mount Olivet, where there's some people that you know that are buried. There are a lot of Greeks buried at Mount Olivet.
Yeah.
And I went to where my parents, my in-laws are buried out on Highland Drive, and my mom and dad out in Sandy, and then down to off of State Street to my niece Michelle's, and then to my aunt and uncle in Taylorsville, and then to Bingham. And so I went to a lot, but I got them all done, which is cool because it turns into a long day.
Well, my mom and dad are in West Jordan Cemetery, about 70 South in Redwood, whatever it is there.
Yeah, that's where my aunt and uncle are.
Yeah, and then they both have a few relatives in there. I got a couple aunts in there, an uncle, cousin, my grandparents. They're all.
Are they all there?
They're there. And so, we stop and do the thing. My grandfather and grandmother have the brass, what do you call it, plate. One side is a Mormon handcart, and on the other side is a Christian cross, because they, So I always thought that was kind of nice.
That is nice.
They're 61 years together. And my folks, so we started there, did what we could. I got, my cousin George, who was a Vietnam veteran, pissed me off because the flags weren't out on his, they weren't. And they weren't on my Uncle Alex either, same gravesite. So I called a cousin. Next thing you know, they got the flags up. But then we went to Mount Olivet, as you say.
Yeah.
So Mount Olivet, if you go there, people that know this, on the far eastern side, the fence up there used to be like an armory or something on the other side of it. There was some kind of whatever. The far eastern edge begets, like they call it Old Greek Town, sort of. That's where the oldest gravesites of Greeks are, including my grandparents on my dad's side. And
a lot of them that were in Greektown in Salt Lake City, probably.
I don't know. These were Bingham guys. We just call it Old Greektown because as you go from east to west,
right,
and you stay in like a quadrant about 40 yards wide, they just take up from there
everything,
all the way to the western fence.
Right.
It's just, there's some smatterings of others elsewhere, but in this, between the 20s or whatever, there's like one after another. So we're up there with the oldest ones. My dad's older brother was among the first because of he was killed in a traffic accident in the avenues on K Street, about 2nd or 3rd Avenue, 1934, something like that. He's one of the early graves, and some others are up there, and a lot of them in Greek, written in carved into Greek. Then my grandparents and other people there, other relatives. Going down lower are my in-laws buried. Then lower than that, my godfather and so on, buried. Leventis is then lower than that, some more. It's just a big bunch of them. So yeah, I walked through myself, and I did on Sunday instead of Monday because I don't like the crowd. It just gets too hard to park.
Oh no, you can't park.
You can't move. And I don't think you need to have a particular day to pay respects, right?
No.
But I walked through part of it, and I saw a woman cleaning off one of the headstones in Greek area, and she said a name that's very familiar to Salt Lakers, but she had no idea that she had relatives in another place because some families just kind of scatter, right? And I knew her relatives, but she didn't know her relatives. And I'm not saying they were close, but I know who their common ancestor was. And it's funny how after a generation or two, you just lose contact. And then you go up to the old Greek town, older Greeks. You see so many graves up there with no flowers, not even a dandelion.
Yeah.
And no tracing. And that's not just Greeks. I mean,
no,
after a few generations, there's just nobody left to do it, and it's kind of saddening in a way because you just know that these people were vital. You wouldn't be there but for them. And all around them are people who we've forgotten and don't know. And they had a history because it says right on there in English or Greek, they had a history. Yeah. We don't know them. But right below there, I was walking down and I saw a group of, I think about 6 people, 5 or 6. They were walking to a grave that was, had a headstone. And it said a name I recognize from Bingham. I know that. I guess I could say the name Drakulich.
Oh, sure.
Or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. And I says, hey, I don't know. I know that name from Bingham. And they go, yeah, well, our family's from Bingham. I said, who are you? And it was the Nick Sassage family.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know the tie-in exactly, maybe through a mother or something. Nick and his brother had sound-off records a long, long time ago in the 80s and stuff. They had a record store and did many things. Their son, Nick, Nick's son, Nick, coached at Highland High School, and my son played baseball. He was a baseball coach. against Amicone at the same time, and that's another Bingham guy. Their dad, Eli, was a classmate of my mother's, and the sister, they were all there. It was just really neat to see them and, Bingham talk in the middle, just a random passing by and over a grave,
The Sassage family are good people. My dad knew Eli very well, and I forget which one of the Sassage boys is a good friend of my friend Dustin Hensel. I had the same experience.
Probably Nick Jr.
Yeah.
Well, they got two sons. I know it could be Nick Jr.
But I had the same experience. I was up by my in Mount Calvary at my mother's mom and dad's grave, and then I also visit all of her aunts and her one uncle who never married, and he's buried up there. But I was at my grandmother and grandfather's grave, and there was a lady looking around, and she said, I said, tell me what name you're looking for, because I may have passed by it. Because I've been there so many times, it still takes me time to find it. And no one ever answers me when I call them, Grandma, where are you? But they don't answer. But she said, yeah, my name is, and you're going to like this name, my name is Lepore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean... And
I knew the Pores.
And I did too. And I said, well, that's a great Bingham name. Are you from Bingham? She said, no, I know they were, but I don't know a lot about them. And that goes to what you were saying. One of the saddest things is, and this is a conversation I don't know how many thousands of times I've had in cemeteries, is the idea that so many people don't know their history about those people that are buried and what they gave up to help them. And
well, nobody knows, and nobody likes to remember. Whenever people ask, I've done this a lot lately, why are you the way you are? I said, because I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, and that's
I'm like you. You're younger than me. You never heard the stories.
Yeah,
it's not my fault, but you could have studied them.
Or you could have asked.
You could have asked, but
right.
You know what? If you think these guys are good people, you're full of shit, Sonny. They're not. History keeps on repeating.
You mean the people that are in power now?
Yes.
Not the people that are buried there.
Not the ones that are buried, of course not. We have to go... Memorial is, what does it mean? Memory. Remember, right? Remember? Yeah. And so it's like God, which way to take this now? We got the Remembrance Pond Lake or Reservoir, whatever Trump wants to call it. He's painting blue. So the whole thing about reflection, where you have a time to talk and think and contemplate, is now a color of a swimming pool. It's not even the same. It looks nice, but that's a way of almost just saying to us all, this isn't about reflection. It isn't about depth at all. It's about
one human being.
One human being or perception. So the word memory, we've talked about it before, and where it comes from in Greek, but maybe you've heard this, but Donald Trump Jr. has said some things, and this wasn't this year. He said in like 2017, what he said about Memorial Day and memories and service and stuff. If you don't mind, I'll kind of, here's one of my favorite people, and he brings tears to my eyes whenever he speaks. He said, I rarely get emotional, if ever. Yet, as we drove past the rows of white grave markers and the gravity of the moment, I had a deep sense of how much our family has sacrificed. Remember, in 8 generations, they've never sent anybody to military. And then thought of the sacrifices we'd helped to make my father succeed. It was a big sacrifice, costing us millions and millions of dollars. And I thought, how much far apart can you be from what Memorial Day means,
right,
and what this guy just spoke? And I know that these are actual quotes. I don't know that they were connected with ellipses or on the same day. But that just gives an indication of what happened. Why do we allow us to be a circus these days? We're talking about WWE a minute ago. Well, we're going to have the fights in front of the White House lawn pretty soon, the spectacle of, the MMA fights with the big arena over the, dwarfing the White House with lights and all this pompous ceremony and bullshit. Nothing's reverent right now, and it's a shame. I do get testy about that. I get to wishing that people read more and studied more. And again, they don't have to be in depth about it. They don't have to be a science professor, but you should at least know what's going on or what happened.
One of the things about again going to all of these cemeteries, people go. I've had friends of mine ask me, well, why do you do it still? And I'd tell them I promised.
What's in it for me? What was in it for those guys?
I promised my mother, but I would do it anyway. Christianity has a tradition. One of the cardinal virtues is to bury the dead, but it doesn't stop there. Both in the Greek Orthodox tradition and the Roman Catholic tradition, it means to bury the dead and to remember them, and you remember them by honoring them. But you also honor their sacrifice. And we live in a time where everybody's talking about their legacy, particularly people like Trump and a lot of Democrats too. What's my legacy going to be? Well, the greatest statement I've ever heard about that is your legacy is as long as somebody puts a flower on your grave. Then it's over.
Yeah.
And when I think of it, most of these people I didn't know. I never met them. I didn't meet only one of my grandparents, and I've said that before. But there are a lot of other people that, because I'm doing what my mother did, are people that I really didn't know that much either. But they're related, or in my mother's case, there are a couple of people that she was really good friends with that she wants to make sure that someone remembers them. And my dad as well, a guy named Axel Strand. I put flowers on his grave in Bingham.
Yeah.
And that brings us kind of full circle to the Bingham Cemetery. I ran up there to the Jenks family. This is a man and his wife, really nice people. And I think it's their oldest son, as a project when he was going to be a Boy Scout, went in and they started mapping that old dusty, dirty cemetery about where people were buried. And if you go up there now, there's a beautiful list that they have done where you can find graves, and they've also got this list of unmarked graves. And I go up there and I kind of take care, and I've done a shitty job in the last couple of years, of my aunt and uncle that died when they were children. But there are also some other Yengiches on there that were kids, babies. Don't know whose they are, and I always try to leave something on their graves. And you look at the names, it's the Bingham names. It's Bogdanovich or Bogdan, it's Muhar, it's Strilich, it's Martinez, it's Garcia, it is Stanuga, and I mean, you can go on and on. I meant to write them down when I was up there. I thought I would remember them better in the moment. But there are people that are up there that you hear that name and you go, Bingham.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I always try my best to remember, try to honor them. Know them or not. My mother has two sisters in that unmarked grave area. I have no idea where they are. She kind of knew directionally where it was, but she couldn't walk to them.
Well, one of the things about the Jenks is they're going to be dealing, and this is for you Bingham people out there, they are going to be dealing with Copperton City, or Township, I guess it is, because they're dealing with what can be done to make that cemetery better. And so I think we're going to try to have Mr. and Mrs. or just Mrs. Jenks on to talk to us about it, because they're going to need some support. And I think it's fair to say that we should offer them what support we can. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about just vocal support or emails when the time comes, and we'll let you know about how we can make that cemetery better. Because these people went in as a project, and it has become their family project every year to go up and make that little cemetery better, not for themselves, although they've got people buried up there, but to honor the legacy of the people from Bingham.
Well, we need to. And I don't know, like, you remember we had on our show the Clark Clements, Vietnam veteran. Yeah. So he's pretty, good about walking through and paying his respects to grave sites in Salt Lake City. Notably, I believe it's in the Salt Lake City Cemetery, where they have an area of gold star tombstones.
And also they have them in Memory Grove. There are some.
Okay, maybe also Memory Grove. Yeah. But he sent me a photo. I'll show it to you. Look at that.
I know.
People are knocking them over. They're in disrepair. They're just not taking care of it. And the who it's damning that people do it. Okay, they're just kids. No, it's not always just kids. Sometimes it's just mean people. But who's trying to fix it? Which is no one. Not the city.
No.
Not the sexton, not the city council, not the VA.
That is in the city cemetery. That is in it.
And they're just disrespecting all this. At the same time, those leaders get up and say, God, we got to love our veterans when they're alive. And when they're, first we only honor them after they come back alive. Trump said, the ones over here in this graveyard in Arlington are the losers. He said that to John Kelly about John Kelly's son who had been killed in Afghanistan. What are these losers? What was in it for them, he said. In France, when he said, the suckers and losers at the battle site of a World War I battle where he refused to go to. People that know sacrifice and can't appreciate it. I kind of get it, but I don't get electing them to president. They should not hold our values and morals in their lack of them and represent us. And people that support that and just continue to turn blind eyes to it, I don't know what to say anymore. There's nothing more to say. Well, but why do we let this happen? Why do we celebrate our patriotism once a year and throw some fireworks in the air? Why do we not tell the stories that are really need to be told? Why do we hide other ones, like all the Confederate stuff that Hegseth is really proud about apparently these days? If you don't know your stories, then you can lie about what anything else you want to have happen and make it real. And the real tragedy is we forget, really freaking fast. We forget. We don't treat our veterans very well. And it doesn't matter how many times somebody gets up there and says we do. We don't.
No, we don't. We talked a little bit earlier about the two baseball players and what they did. Those guys are going to be under real scrutiny by a lot of people in the future because of what they did, with some legitimacy, because of what they did was just outlandish under the circumstances in a game. The thing that Donald Trump and his kids and some other people, so-called big-name MAGA people, have said about veterans and about other dead people, okay? There was a day where the response would have been just as swift, except more painful for them as politicians, and it's not that long ago. But what we've done is we've done this. It's just words. They don't really mean it. They're just playing to their base. It's just what they have to say. And here's what I have to say to that. That may be the case. You may believe that. But here's where we get to the Bingham Boys. But you wouldn't do that in front of my dad.
You wouldn't do it in the bars I grew up and working when I was 12 years old.
And you wouldn't do it in front of John's dad because what your words were, it was really a vision of who you were. And I don't get it. And so for all of our brothers and sisters that are MAGA people and still holding on to it, you can't look at where we're at. We're in a war now. Have we won the war yet, John?
We're not winning the war. We weren't winning the war on day one. We had no plan to win the war. We only dropped bombs and made it look like we were winning the war. And people like in MAGA without very big attention, like sparklers and shit going off.
Okay, so
we weren't winning Iran ever in this go-round.
If you're out there and you believe that we've got to honor our war dead, and this...
honor our war dead. Trump said he feels good that there's only 13. When people say we lost 13, it makes me feel happy because it's only 13 or whatever. Like, how do you feel happy about this shit? How do you say Happy Memorial Day? That's what he said Happy Memorial Day? Just
another example of what we're talking about. You cannot honor the history of Decoration Day, which originally was, starting with the Civil War. You can't honor that, and it became really big during World War I. You can't honor that by not taking care of the veterans that are here, that are alive still, and that are suffering, that are on the streets, some of them dying. You can't honor them by making it difficult for them to get treatment at the VA hospitals. You can't honor them by cutting back their benefits and doing that in a way that is not only disrespectful to their service, but disrespectful to the honor that we need to give them. Even if we disagree with some of the wars they were in, they still deserve our respect. And people like Donald Trump, and I'll just finish with this, you can wear your red hat all you want and want to make America great again. America was great when we honored them. We tried to do it all the time.
America was great when the hat was made in China and put on their heads. It was already great. It just became a symbol to rally behind because what Donald Trump was and represented to them, a bypass to reality, and in a way that they didn't have to behave the way that norms had always been passed on from generation to generation. They got to bypass and take a hall pass on it. Now it's all biting them in the ass. They're finding out that everything he said he would do from 2015 when he walked down the elevator to today, nothing came true. The closest one is the border. And even then, it's become a more and more spurious case because the things that he said we need to close the border for, like crime and drug and all this interdiction stuff, still happens.
Well, it's still...
So we got some brown people out of here. Hooray.
Yeah, but we also brought some white people in from South Africa.
They have the only favored nation status with, to come to the United States now, and because they're so pushed upon down there, right? So, how about you said did we win the Iraq War? Well, no, Iran War. I keep saying misspeaking. So, if it negotiates to what is on the table, it goes back 10 years to the deal that Donald Trump tore up, the Obama deal. It had a Strait of Hormuz open, had a basically nuclear-free Iran with commitments to do that and inspections to come. It wasn't happening, and there was something to do with some money there too, which is also ironic because Trump's about to release far, 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 far more money to Iran than Obama did, but Obama's was from a case from 1979. It was for purchases that Iran made of ours that we didn't deliver on. So it was their money. But, okay, throw that away. We're back to negotiating to where we were, except that now nuclear, proliferation or whatever could become in Iran is closer. It didn't go away. We didn't blow it up. And the Straits of Hormuz, although open, will now be taxed. So it's not open. It's like...
Yeah,
this was stupid. How many billions of dollars did we spend there? All because of a guy's whimsical nature. And everybody rallies around him and says, yes, he does things he says he's going to do, but he has never got a plan. And he moves on to the next thing and could care less.
By the way, how are the Epstein files release going?
That's really 32,000 names in there that start with D and end in P. And they're still in the file somewhere. So, what kind of a deal do we have? I mean,
we don't have a deal. This idea of deals just stuns me. He's a deal maker. So if
he's a deal maker, he got his ass handed to him by Xi in China a couple weeks ago.
And a friend of mine said to me the other day, he's gonna solve the Iran war. A war that he started,
right.
And that we're going to come out of it, this deal maker, with a worse deal than we had. So I'm just saying this to, again, our friends. We got friends out there that listen to us, and or at least you have friends, and and the fact of the matter is send us a text, write to us, or call us, and we'll let you give your explanation. How is it with all of this that Donald Trump went to Texas and said he wanted a crook, Paxton, to be the Republican nominee over a long-standing Republican senator who had supported Trump about
probably 99%.
Yeah, at least 85% of the time, because he wouldn't cow down and kiss his ass. And so they're gonna have a guy running that is really loathed by a lot of people in Texas. So you have MAGA friends in Texas. You're gonna tell them to vote for this guy. And why are you going to do that? What does it mean to just have people that love Donald Trump?
Well, in Trump world, I don't know that he's trying to score points and get Paxton elected or to hurt Cronin.
I think it's both.
I think, because he's got that side of him. He said it over and over. If he believes in an eye for an eye, he believes in 10 eyes for an eye. His revenge is sweet with this guy. He goes after anybody who's wronged him, big time. And, the tragedy of it is he's gone over a lot of people who formerly comprised his strongest base, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Tucker Carlson, now Cronin. But Cronin is going to support Paxton. This is Cronin who run against him up until a few days ago. They got beat a few days ago. And would say those things that are true. The guy has sexual allegations against him. I don't know what his convictions are, but he's certainly fraud is among the things.
He was impeached.
And impeached by his own party. And now Cronin came out and said, but I'm a loyalist or something like that, and I'll support my party's ticket. I go, where do you stand?
Mark Twain hit on it. My party, right or wrong, is like my driver, drunk or sober. These people are drunk on Donald Trump, and they're unwilling to let go. And I don't understand it, but you know what? I don't want to try to understand anymore because it's like understanding a fart in the cathedral, okay? It happened. You want the smell to go away or whatever. You want it to go away and we can move on to what we're supposed to be. We can't ever move on from the orange fart machine that puts stuff out there and have a base that's willing to smell it and say that it's roses when they know it isn't. And until they get off of that, we're going to be fighting these battles. But I am done trying to understand why they want to do it because it's not understandable to me.
It's not understandable. It's painfully true that a very small percentage of Americans at this point support all of Donald Trump, but those very small few are sort of like you control a caucus in Draper that elects the Republican candidate for the county seat and then the state seat, and people vote the party ticket. That MAGA core is not letting go. Anything that Donald Trump says is golden, and they just won't tune into the rest of it, which is to their own damn fault. You know, a guy that was kind of famous said this. Let me see. Here's like, when Trump went to China, I got to say that I was just as ignorant about this as anybody. I'd never read the book. I know the history, but the Thucydides trap. Mm-hmm. And so, although Donald Trump didn't have a clue as to what it was, you could see it in his eyes, like, well, what is it, spy trap, fly trap, whatever. I was doing the same thing, but at least I did something different. I read about it, found out a little bit about it, and about Thucydides. And the trap is that when a rising power, when a traditional dominant power starts to feel threatened or feared, but there's a change coming, war often results. And what she was telling Trump, are you going to fall into this trap? Because we're the rising power,
right?
And you're the dominant power. Are we going to end up in war? And that's what the trap is,
right? To
avoid the war. So, but I read a couple quotes about him, Thucydides, and he wrote 3 quotes that I wrote down, and they're kind of telling, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Okay, so one it kind of describes Donald Trump himself, and keep in mind this is written over 2,500 years ago. Love of power, operating through greed and through personal ambition, was the cause of these evils. It's not Donald Trump, one that wants power, ambition, and all that kind of stuff. That's Trump. Republican Party, elected Republicans who follow Trump and are obedient to him, obedient to him, like the Cronins and all Mike Johnsons, all that kind of stuff, are these. Same thing Thucydides said. The strong do what they have to do, Trump, and the weak accept what they have to accept. And that's Mike Johnson and all the rest of them. Right. They just go along with the program. Then MAGA. There's no really longer Republican Party. We've said this for over a year. MAGA is the Trump Party is what it is. Republicans, right. Rhino in name only is just a scornful word now. They might as well call them liberals because they're scorned almost as bad as liberals in that circle now.
Right.
You know, people who left Republicanism. But Republicans were once a proud party, a good party.
Grand old
party, conservative, fine, they could talk and whatever. But party now it's MAGA. It's Trump. And here's MAGA. It ties into what you said a minute ago. Most people, in fact, will not take the trouble in finding out the truth. They don't. They never query. They never ask. But are much more inclined to accept the first story they hear. Now, that's 2,500 years old. You could have written it yesterday about MAGA. They still think Obama was born in Africa. They still think Bush was the criminal crime syndicate. They still think Hillary did something, her emails. And they've never let go of that, and they never figured out, maybe there's a seed to it, but it's really not harvesting anything any longer. It's a dead seed, but they still stick to it.
Yeah. 2 points to be made on that. Thucydides and Herodotus before him were great historians from long ago. And you know who knew them well? The people that wrote our Constitution. Mm-hmm. They knew, they had read them. Some in the original Greek, others in translation. They understood that these guys were telling stories, history, about things that actually had happened, and they were doing it for a purpose so that their own people, and then eventually, as the world expanded, the known world expanded, other people would know it too. That's number one. And number two is that the one thing that MAGA has done vis-a-vis the Republican Party, and I believe the Democratic Party, because of their total ineptitude, has done, they've driven into, in a sense, the center, a whole group of people that are not party aligned. And if there's a hope to be had here, it is this, and that is that when you see Cronin himself, his organization, spend $100 million. Think of that. $100 million on a primary election, and they have the money to do it. Those people, I hope, in the center, which I'm increasingly become one, because the Democratic Party doesn't...
The Democrat has the weakest leadership in the history of the Democratic Party right now.
But they also have people who can't read, apparently, or they don't watch the news. Because when Donald Trump was asked about the price of living in America today, and said, vis-a-vis the Iran war, and his answer was this: I really don't think about that.
Yep.
You don't have to run on anything else. A picture of him, I don't really think about your pain, America. And the Democratic Party, to this very day, I haven't heard anybody talk about that. So I'll just finish it. So you've got that whole great group of people in the middle, plus all of those people that stopped voting years ago. That is the potential hope for America, that they will wake up and go, piss on this, and also on the Supreme Court decision that has allowed this to happen. We want it changed. And the people that talk about changing that and all the money that is in this election boondoggle has to end. There we have some hope. And my hope is that people will begin to go back and think and read about the history of civilizations and what caused them to fail, which brings us to the end, almost.
Okay.
There's a new book out, and
Sparta.
You sent it to me. I've ordered my copy, and we're going to read it. And the name of the book is Sparta: The Rise and Fall of an Ancient Superpower.
Well, in those times, Sparta was the established power. Athens was the rising power.
Right.
And they went to war forever, and it's still written in histories that we need to remember.
But this is a book that we're going to read, and we're going to try to discuss it. And so offer that to those of you that are out there. In the future, we're going to do it. Because once again, and it goes directly to your quotes from Thucydides, and that is, we can learn from the past. We can learn from what happens in the past, and we can lift the blinders off of our eyes about history by thinking and reading about those things that are so easy to get to in this day and age of the internet and computers, where great stuff is out there too. And take the blinders off and see, again, not just Trump and for what Trump and his people are, but also for my party of my whole life, the Democratic Party, and their unwillingness to get off their behinds and get out and try to find a way to counter what Trump continues to do every day.
Well, which is being rotten to people. The two of the smartest people in the Democratic Party, among many, there are a few, John Ossoff and Buttigieg, AOC, pretty damn smart woman.
Yep.
And so's Jasmine Crockett. These are well established. They've got the cred, the smart cred that will not stop. And yet MAGA believes they're just two women, uneducated bartenders who weren't worth anything in AOC's case, and what they call Jasmine Crockett, just a low IQ person or something like that. And that's been the whole thing that's driven MAGA, and that's the damning part of it for me. I kind of get that we can have a disagreement on a left or right, is Iran right or wrong, but I can't find the common ground when MAGA spends so much time debasing people, and over and over and over. And I know what they're going to do. Oh, yeah, but Stephen Colbert did it. Yeah, you know what? This is coming from the top down. Colbert was a paid comedian, and moved on. He left it. He owns the show. He's probably gonna do better without CBS than he did with it. So that doesn't stop. But when you talk about your president and politicians and people of power, people that we once thought could not tell a lie, and were the most honorable people in the world, actually are some of the scummiest. It's really hard for me to take that people follow into that. I just think that there's a line that they've crossed that they don't want to come back to, and that's decency. I don't get why they continue to just run that line of, well, take Tallarico. He beat Jasmine Crockett. Crockett may not have a seat, I guess. I don't know what she's going to do.
But she's going to support Tallarico.
But she's also going to be in politics somewhere. Yeah. She deserves to be.
She does.
So,
former public defender.
How are they beating Tallarico right now? They call him Talafrico, because somebody thought that was a clever thing to do. And they're saying that he's a vegan. And you know what those vegans are. They're like left-wing commies and all the rest of this kind of stuff. Never mind that he's, as he said very clearly yesterday, did you see what he said?
Mm-mm.
Hi, I'm James Tallarico. I'm an 8th-generation Texan. I've been eating barbecue since before Ken Paxton's first indictment.
He's
that was a great
kid.
comeback, and it's true, but they're going to always fight their character rather than common cause or purpose. And once those guys get elected, they don't have any core except to be loyal to Donald Trump. And so no wonder he stays in power. He studies, apparently, circumcised penises more than he studies foreign policy.
I don't even want to go there.
Robert Kennedy did. Robert Kennedy said that, because of male circumcision that caused boys to take Tylenol when they were children. And I don't even know when Tylenol was on the shelves and when autism became whatever he's talking about, because it doesn't make sense, because Tylenol's given to children who are also teething, or who fall and break a toe, and all those kinds of things. Has nothing to do with it, but he tied it to that because he's a wacko that grabs snakes and eats raccoons and puts a bear in the fridge and whatever he does. And Trump ended before every camera in the world says, yeah, I've been studying that a lot. Like, wow, our president studied that?
There's a Kinky Friedman song in there somewhere.
I met the guy, Kinky Friedman. I did. He was at our convention in San Antonio. Not too many people knew that the Texas Jew boy.
No, I mean, look him up. Those of you that don't know, but we're at the end, and I have nothing to say.
What was your Greek word? You never told me.
Oh, my Greek word was, in fact,
because I'm going to say
my Greek word was Sionis.
Sionis?
Yeah, and it comes from the word Sionos, which comes from the Greek word Sion, which means existence. It is...
Sionis is the family that owned the Billy Goat Tavern.
Billy Goat Tavern. And I thought that was cool because in reading a little bit about it, what is taken back relative to Greek culture, and although you and I argue a lot, I love the Greek culture, I love the Greek people I know here in Utah, and the culture that has continued here in Utah because of the love that Greeks have for who they are. But it goes back to the idea of a sense of identity and awareness of their own culture. And so I thought that was a good word.
I met a guy a few years ago, and it doesn't matter how, but I know Yannis Sionis. His uncle was Sam.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I met him separately from Chicago and all that stuff. But he's still living in Chicago, but that's, of course, how we talk about it.
So that's
I didn't know that word. I mean, I know it's a Greek name, but I didn't know what it meant. But I'll leave with this one. Cemetery. There's two words in Greek. One is, like in modern Greek, it's tafio or necrotafio. Necro means like dead.
Death, yeah.
Dead, and it means dead graveyard or graveyard. But in ancient Greek, it's called kimetarium, similar to cemetery.
Right.
Right? In fact, it's probably where the root comes, which means sleeping place.
Oh, really?
So,
I like that. I'll have to look up the Latin on that.
There you go.
Because the Latin language stole that one from the Greeks. As, what's his name? Protocollus. What is it? Protocollus.
Protocollus.
In the
everything comes from
everything's from. It comes from the Greek word.
Portocollus. Orange.
All right.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ron. Good to see you. We'll talk next time.
God bless everybody.
Right.
Be safe.